A Science of Change, podcasting by Gil Crosby, social scientist, author, and organization development professional since 1984. And so here we are. This is Gil Crosby. I'm pleased to start another podcast. This time I have the honor of interviewing Dr. Ron Short, one of the founders of the Leadership Institute of Seattle, originally the Leadership Institute of Spokane. So it's a privilege to have you here, Ron. How are you doing this morning?
Well, aside from getting ready for this and wondering what it'll be like, it's a beautiful day.
All right. Nice. You're in the Pacific Northwest?
Yes, I'm in Southern California, in La Quinta.
Okay.
La Quinta in the desert.
Nice.
Palm Springs. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Nice. How old are you, Ron, if you don't mind me asking? You can.
I don't mind. I'm
okay.
89. I turned 90 in April.
Wow. Well, congratulations.
Yeah, you say wow, and I'd say what Mother told me, Gil, it'll happen before you know it.
Yeah. I don't doubt it. I'm 64, so I still, in my head, think I'm a kid.
It's hard to believe you're 64.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, okay, well, look, Ron, I'm just curious about anything you want to talk about, and of course, the story of LIOS. Here's my brother, Chris, as you know, is restarting LIOS. It had expired for 2 or 3 years, and we actually just graduated a class, first-year students, certificate students, just last week in Pittsburgh completed.
Wow.
Year 1, yeah. So pretty exciting. And thank you. And next week we're with a group in South Bend, Indiana, that are just one module away from two. So this module and then one more module, and they'll be the second graduating class.
Well, that's just remarkable.
It is. And it wouldn't be happening if not for you and Dad and John and the program you guys created. So,
well, thank you.
Well, I'd love to hear a little about like how that all came to be. Like, how'd you meet Dad?
I experienced a tea group. I can't remember the years. I don't live in a calendar well, but
No worries.
Yeah. And I was teaching at Whitworth. I had a PhD and a doctorate. And before that, I was in the Navy and was a pilot in the Navy, and then got out. And in order to teach, and I wanted to teach at a Christian college at that time, and wound up at Whitworth, and went to a tea group, and then through that linkage, I remember my first encounter with Bob was in Spokane, Washington, and he was at the bar, and I came to introduce. This is my memory, but who knows? Anyway.
Memory is just a biochemical experience.
Anyway, I was just struck, and I'd been told about Bob, and I guess we were going to meet. Anyway, I met him at the bar in this famous hotel in Spokane that I can't remember right now. But I said, well, how are you? And quick introductions. And then he said, I was just sitting here thinking of my father.
Huh.
And that immediately had an impression on me. And to me, it was like an expression of opening to me a world of personal uh, experience that science tries to push out,
Uh-huh.
tries to eliminate. Uh, so my doctor was in psychology, and it was primarily a research degree.
Okay.
And all of research is that you try to nudge personal opinion and everything out as much as possible so you can look at quote facts. But at any rate, so that was kind of when I met him. That was kind of the background, and saying yes, I need more of that. Bob's reflection on his personal life, and I started then to do things at Whitworth. I can't remember, but using some of the what I understood to be T group in class.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was asked back. I became an NTL associate, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
That was the way in. And I was asked back to uh, if I was interested in going to Washington, D.C. with the IRS. And I didn't have any idea why, but I said yes. That was kind of an exciting prospect. I took a leave of absence for a year.
So you were going to be an organizational development
Right.
person?
Yeah.
Okay. For the IRS? Interesting.
And this is an OD person whose training is basically scientific.
Uh-huh.
And all of a sudden encountering the truth of what is true around human and the importance of subjective experience.
Mm-hmm.
And that led me to T Group. That led me to then, I think of Bob. Actually, I was in Washington, D.C., and I was contemplating leaving and coming back. And at that time, Bob had talked to Ed Lindeman, the president of Whitworth, and Pat McDonald, who was my department chair, about starting the graduate program. And I received, can't remember how, but it was a phone call saying, come on back. We're going to be starting a graduate program. And I was terribly excited about that. And that's the connection with Bob. He started it, he initiated it. I think Ed Lindeman, who was a futurist.
Right.
And
I met him. I met him
yeah,
at least once, so I have an
amazing
image.
man.
Yeah.
And Pat McDonald, who wanted me back, and so on. So that was, and I was ready to leave the East Coast. I was ready to come back. So it worked out very well.
Nice. So, Dad had started in '69, I believe, in the basement of the United Methodist Church on the South
Yeah.
Hill of Spokane, and I had helped do the janitorial services. So
You had to move the pillows around.
right, so there was that room full of pillows, which my brother sewed. Him and his girlfriend
He
sewed up.
did.
Yeah,
Wow.
he supplied those pillows, and he also had the janitorial contract. I just came along occasionally and helped vacuum and so on. But I knew something was going on there, and of course, I had been in a school that started with 3 weeks of T group when I was 10. So
Wow.
1970 that started. So Dad was, stirring the pot and experimenting because he started that school, the new school.
You were 10 years old?
Maybe I was 11. I think I was 11. Yeah, it
Well,
was sixth
anyway,
grade.
that's young.
Yeah, I was in a tea group, and Ron, mostly what I remember in the tea group was that I discovered caffeine. There was like Lipton tea or something available, and so no one seemed to mind if I drank a lot of it. And then I stood and in like a corner of this tea group and spun,
And what?
and no one seemed. I was spinning. I would stand and spin,
Uh-huh.
and no one seemed to be bothered by that either. So that was my first tea group experience. It was loose to call it a tea group. I think it
Yeah.
was a group, and it had a trainer, but it's not like I had to pay attention to my internal experience and
Yeah.
talk about it much, or
Well,
anything.
yeah, the whole thing, the origin of the tea group uh, was based on people saying what was real for them in it.
Yep.
And while the scientists were looking for evidence, and it was really the people who said, wait a minute, this is the way it was for me, that set up the whole tea group experience. Yeah.
Yep, I experienced this way, this moment. I had these feelings. I thought this was what was happening. And then Lewin also wanted feedback from the participants to the faculty.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a unique aspect. But anyway, so you guys created, then, of course, Dad started that whole thing. It wasn't a graduate program in 69, but I think, 73 or so? That's when
I think it
Whitworth,
was. Yeah.
you helped create it into an actual graduate program that,
Yes, I think I had a trust with Ed Lindemann and a trust with Pat McDonald. But because we're about to do something that's really very, very different.
yep.
Yeah.
So there you were with Dad and Ed and the other fellow you mentioned that I'm not familiar with, but and you guys started creating a T group based graduate program, and I believe some of the structure that you created back then is still what Chris is using to revive the program today.
Yes. Yeah. I'm
And
sure it is.
yeah, I attended in 81, the 81-82 school year.
Wow.
When did you finish, so to speak?
I'm not sure. I think it was late 80s. Was I when you took it?
I
I
think
think
you were like president or something. I don't think I had you as a T group leader.
no, but I
Uh,
was. Yeah. Yeah, I think it was late 80s that I left.
and the school brought in someone from Mnuchin's group.
Oh, I did that. Yeah.
Well, that was great. I love that. So they came in and looked at the relationship between the faculty and the students from a family systems
Yes.
perspective. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I just, the whole area of emotion, just pretty soon it gets pretty shallow. And at my level of understanding at that time, and hey, there's more going on here. And
Right.
that's where structural family therapy was just a wonderful thing. I took not a sabbatical, but I went back for training in structural family therapy. And to this day, I think it's the most useful uh, set that I can use.
Well,
In my,
I especially apply or not Whitaker, Bowen and Friedman
mm-hmm,
to understanding what's happening in organizations.
mm-hmm.
And there's a close relationship between them and Lewin, because Lewin was talking about homeostasis in systems. And
Oh, yeah.
if you push, then the tension goes up. I mean, he was absolutely paying attention to emotionality in systems
Yes.
and the
Yeah.
consequences.
But that interaction exists in the structure. And the whole idea of beginning to see the structure and
Mm-hmm.
leadership and roles as being really critical, both to understanding difficulties, but also to correcting them, which I see you guys doing all the time in your promotions. But at that
Well,
time, it was just primarily get people to be open with each other.
sure.
But anyway, that's my story.
It's a good story. I didn't know you were in the Navy as a pilot,
You didn't know what?
that you were a Navy pilot.
Yeah.
I'm glad you survived that.
Well, I the other day I just, well, it's been a while now, but I um, Googled a friend, junior pilot, and found out he was killed in Vietnam.
Wow.
I had gotten out at the right time.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, all kinds of reasons about that. But primarily, I was excited about teaching in a system where we can affirm human values. And I was very excited when Bob called me back from Washington. Actually, I think he bought a ticket for my wife, Shirlene, to come back.
Okay, nice.
Yeah,
And that's around the same time that John Scherer was brought in.
yes. Yeah, we met the first time, my memory of we met the first time in your yard on South Hill
Okay.
under a palm tree
Uh-huh.
to create a graduate program. What the hell is this? And there was no chart, there was no goals, there was nothing but three men under a palm tree or whatever, not palm, but plum tree.
The plum tree. Okay, absolutely. I've
Uh,
harvested those plums many times.
yeah. So, anyway,
Yeah, Dad had a chart in his head of adult learning. And but that wasn't the same thing as turning it into a documented process, that would meet the state's criteria and so
well,
on.
that's a major contribution that he made. Well, he made huge contribution doing this, but in terms of my thinking, shifted from here's a curriculum to the curriculum is am I learning
Uh-huh.
and what am I learning, and emphasis on that. And that was the huge shift that allowed me to say, well, this is worth a master's degree. I was very concerned about um, not letting the institution trust me down the path of that they would regret.
Mm-hmm.
So Bob and John were both more interested in LIOS, and my affiliation was more toward the institution and trying to be sure that what we're doing would pass muster.
Yeah. Well, it's good that there was someone paying attention to that.
Yeah, I can remember thinking, this is not a circus. You don't get a degree for just living another life and attending class.
Right.
What's the meaning of it? So that was the richest part of that. Being thrown into that dilemma has led me down just an incredible path of discovery, and I just owe Bob and John that.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, you guys, I don't know who came up with the group membership inventory, for instance, But there's ways to document what people are attempting to learn, and even to have peer assessment of whether or not.
Oh, yes, yes.
So we use that in this the 6-week program we just did. What's really the first year.
Oh,
Uh, we've also added, back from my own experience, I added a list of what we want them to be getting from the program,
mm,
and then we track behavior throughout the year, quotes. So people are in their T group, and whichever one of us isn't leading is writing down quotes, so that we can say, here's our judgment about your behavior. It's based on this moment when you said this, or when you didn't say anything for 2 rounds of T group, or so we've tried to behavioralize it even more.
oh, wonderful. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's helpful, and so we just went through midterms with the second group we're with right now, where we actually get on with each student. We sit down, in this case online, and go over the ratings so far.
Wow.
How are you influencing group behavior? Are you speaking up when there's differences? Are you, just different things that we have. Are you helping other people listen to each other when they differ?
Oh, man, that's really advanced. That's good stuff.
Yeah, well, I'm excited about it. I mean, Lewin wanted things to be behavioral, and he had people sitting there in 1946 watching who had a loose set, I think, of like they were supposed to write whenever they thought there was conflict, take notes. And so, that was Wallen really helped with the interpersonal gap,
Oh, yeah.
put things more into closer to objectivity.
Well, certainly closer to behavior. I mean,
Yes,
very
right.
directly related to behavior. Yeah.
Yep. And what's the difference between a behavior and a judgment about behavior?
Well, that's
And
that's Wallen.
yep,
Yeah.
and that's a distinction many people don't make. So,
Look, we're in absolutely. It's not many people. All people.
well, sure, that's right. I forget it at times. Absolutely.
Yeah. No,
So,
my experience with John Wallen was just incredible. I had to, as an NTL intern, I had the invitation to be on his staff on 2 occasions, one in Portland, the other in Vail, Colorado. And the highlight of that, because we had the graduate program going, was his brilliant articulation of what really helps a group. And to me, he's probably influenced more people than any other social psychologist in history, and not unknown, because
mhm.
his but an incredible contribution that was made by people um, who learned what he had to teach. Anyway, yeah,
Well, he would appreciate hearing that, because that was his goal, was to, get the word out to as many people as
yeah.
possible. So,
I remember coming back on the airplane from Colorado, must have been, but he said, and people were publishing his stuff, but not giving him credit.
mm-hmm.
And I remember him wistfully saying, at least I wish they would say derived from or modified from. But that's, anyway, yeah.
Well, we give him credit. And I work, with work teams, a lot of work teams, and I teach the interpersonal gap. That's the first thing I do.
Very powerful tool.
It is, and I've never met. Really, it's almost like I've never met anyone. But certainly, the majority of people just absorb it and go, "Wow, this is me."
Yes.
I misunderstand other people all the time, and
Yes.
I think they misunderstand me, and I blame them,
Sure.
and so on. So it's a really, it is. It's a great frame.
Well, Yeah, and that's one of the reasons I support you, because it's needed so much. But I support LIOS not because LIOS is important to me, but that principle
Sure.
is, yeah.
Well, not only do you support, but you're going to be in a online session on December 14th at 9 o'clock Eastern time with John and Dad.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah, so the founding trio.
yeah. That's going to be on Zoom, huh?
Yeah, Zoom. That's Zoom.
You guarantee that I'll get on?
Ron, there are no guarantees in life.
Okay, all right. Anyway,
But I'll be there, so I'm hoping you will.
yeah.
And eventually, Chris doesn't think there'll ever be. He likes the idea of having LIOS not have a physical location. So we'll see how that lasts. Eventually, I think there should be a campus and a steady flow of students and revenue, and then a statue of you three guys out front.
Oh, no, don't embarrass me that way. Anyway, what? Who doesn't want to? Is you saying Bob doesn't want LIOS?
No, Chris. I think wisely at this point we're working in hotels, when we're teaching.
Of course.
There's no overhead. There's no
Yeah,
place right now. So
absolutely.
Yeah, so that makes sense. But eventually we need some place for the statues.
I'll be darned.
That's what I keep telling them. Okay.
Well, I think the discovery and the shift from T group to I call skill group is an incredible thing, and that truly is a very effective tool for helping people with what we're talking about with the interpersonal gap. But it wouldn't exist without John Wallen.
It certainly wouldn't be the same T group, and I'm sure Lewin would have loved Wallen.
Yes,
he tended to love everybody, but he really wanted to have as objective an approach to the subjective as possible. And so that's what Wallen added. Hey, I want to kind of pivot here. I want to spend a little time on your books. So, because there you tried, at least in a special kind of leadership and learning in relationship, I think you do a nice job of taking self-differentiation, that family systems approach, and visually helping people get the difference between what's inside you and what's really outside. And
well, yeah, those books were written so I could understand what we were doing.
Yeah, I believe it.
They weren't written for a public, but my gosh, what's happening here? I needed to.
What's happening?
It. Yeah, what's happening during the groups?
Oh, yeah. Okay, good. I thought you had something happening there.
No.
Okay, good. Yeah, well, especially I think a special kind of leadership. I mean, it's so short, and it really just these images of undifferentiated fusion.
Oh, yeah.
I think you create something pretty nice here. We got to start integrating it back in, and everyone that's listening should go out and buy a copy.
I don't know if more are published. I have no idea.
Yeah, well, that could be a dilemma, but anyway, so you had a way of making concepts that were complicated, helping to make them, well, like any good theory, making them more understandable.
Well, thank you. And that's because I was trying to understand.
Yeah, well, that makes sense.
I think one of the virtues of being a good teacher is to be somewhat dumb. I mean, to have to figure stuff out.
Yeah. Well, and be willing to uh, try, to figure
Yeah,
stuff out.
sure.
That takes some gumption.
So, how's our interview going? Do you have questions more, or I don't
Well,
know?
I've enjoyed what we've covered so far, Ron. I'm probably getting somewhere close to the end. Uh, I guess I'm curious. The EQ profile is the only instrument I'm certified for, and you helped create that. Was that also because you were trying to figure things out?
Well, what happened with that was that I married a bright woman, and
Okay.
and a colleague of mine from way back at Whitworth, David Erb,
Uh-huh.
and she put that together. But it was based uh, on the inside out perspective.
Right.
That's become. I'm doing this from the inside out. That's become just common, but it wasn't common when I wrote a lot about it, what it meant, trying to make sense out of why this worked.
I
And,
wouldn't call it common, Ron.
well, they have a movie titled it From the Inside Out, I think. Anyway, yeah, certainly not used commonly.
No,
Yeah,
just starting with yourself and trying to
yeah,
understand what you want, think, and feel. The T group task, as we teach it, at least.
yeah.
Uh, and
Well, what Wallen did is take behaviors that and move them rather than just speculate or therapy. There's a division in psychology. There was clinical and then
mm-hmm,
research division. And what he did for me was that, oh God, this is behavioral. You see it,
right,
you can train it, you
you
can
can
make
do
it
it.
happen, you can use it. And then the T group was a format. And then the fishbowl on top of that, and
Mm-hmm.
having people work with each other to learn it while they're doing it was just, I think, the cap that I feel very, very proud of. So,
Yeah. Well, I certainly rely on that. It turns the learning where it should be into their own hands, but that's hard to do without peers working on it. So when the peers are influencing each other, even if
oh,
one's sitting there going, I don't know, but the other's going, well, I think I get defensive.
yeah,
The other's working on themselves. It's just hard to resist learning.
yes. Well, it's good.
Yeah, when you're not just getting lectured at. That's easy to resist when you're just being lectured at, as a lot of Lewin's research showed.
I think it was the whole idea of learning from now
Uh huh.
remains very exciting to me rather than causation from the past because of what mommy did or didn't do. Although that's important, the older I've gotten, the more I
Mm-hmm.
realize how important more psychoanalytic perspective is. But the whole idea of being able to change a system uh, by what's happening among and between us rather than individually is just, I think that's very powerful wave.
Yep. And we integrate the past into the present. That's part of Bowen's inner guidance system is that you differentiate between the past and the present. And if
Uh,
there's strong emotionality in the present, a lot of it has to do with some sort of habits you formed in the past, even if you can't remember what it was. If you
yeah,
get upset and you go silent, or you get upset and you just openly blame the other. All those kinds of habits, they all started early. So we do draw on that early experience, people making connections. Like, well, what are my habits? Like,
Well, I wasn't that familiar with Lewin at that time, but he set the stage for you. Makes a lot of sense.
certainly did, and it was actually Bowen that was the family systems person that helps with that inner guidance system. Help create a model that
Good.
is the T group task. A lot of it, what differentiating between what you think and what you feel, and then Wallen helped behavioralize it. It's anyway, it's a lovely package that you helped create into a world, into a form that could be accepted by academia or by the state of Washington enough that it thrived.
Yeah.
And changed a lot of people.
Well, I'm very thankful for that opportunity. I think I've got to give credit, but Bob and John were just really created a context within which I found myself to be able to be the best I can be as a teacher.
Well, that's
very
nice.
Thankful for it.
Yeah. Well, look, I think we've covered a lovely amount of territory. I don't know if there's anything else on your mind, but at the end of this, I'd just like to know if you have any advice for people.
No, I don't have anything other than, I just wish you well in continuing this, and my hope would be that you wind up being more trainer of trainers.
Sure, that's our hope too, Ron.
Yeah.
I laugh though because you're so humble. I think that you have wisdom that a lot of people could benefit from still.
Oh, thank you so much.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, you did this little online thing for LIOS, and to have people reflect on the distinction between behavior and their own judgments. You just sat there for a few moments quietly, and I thought it was a really nice little experiential moment for everyone that was there to.
Yeah, good. Well, I'm ready to be done if you are.
Okay, cool. I am too. So thank you so much. Thank you, Ron. I really appreciate it.
Glad to do it, and the best, Gil.
Okay, cool. I'll send you the link. And so we're signing out here, listeners. Thank you so much. Hey, I appreciate you listening. This, again, is Gil Crosby. And I want you to take advantage of what's available to you. I have many free materials. I am happy to talk to people about their situations, especially if you're trying to create change, either social change or organization change. We have frequent workshops that are available, T group workshops. If you have never been in a T group with us, then don't miss it in your life. It's many people have said to me, of all the trainings I've ever received, I got this one 30 years ago, and it's the only one that stuck with me. You're learning from your actual interactions with the other participants and with the faculty. The faculty are walking the same talk that they're teaching of behavioral skills. It's a training workshop. That's what the T stands for. This is done in the spirit of the creation of T groups by Kurt Lewin and his associates. It's for groups. It's for teams. That's how it was originally designed. It is a opportunity to learn about theory and put it directly into practice. Again, the original design, you learn things and then you put them into practice. It was not just all ambiguity, which is how some T groups, most are led today, where the faculty hardly says anything. That's not how this is designed. So join us for that. There's always workshops. There's the Leadership Institute of Seattle, which has certificate programs, a two-year program where you will learn from T groups and learn how to do all the organization development work that my father designed, most of it, and I continue that practice alongside my brother Chris and many other associates. So don't be a stranger. There's a lot going on. It's always changing. So be in touch, and it's on the website, crosbyod.com. I look forward to working with you in your organization or as you pursue things like reducing gun violence and decreasing racism in our society. Whatever your goals are, the social science of Kurt Lewin guides how to achieve those goals in a reliable way. And so that's what I apply and practice every day and invite you to.